Maybe. Had me worried there that it wasn't going to work. Okay, it took forever to load, but we're live. And I'm totally wedged in here, surrounded by boots. So once again, the name may be a little misleading because it's more like 12 boots in 10 weeks, and technically there's still 2 days left in the challenge, but chances are I'm wearing the same 2 boots tomorrow and today as I wore yesterday and the day before. The original, I don't know, I read through all the, nobody watched hardly the last installment, which was the Wolverine loader, the Thursday captain, and the Ariat, whatever the name of these are. So I don't really need to show these that much in this video because I only wore them for like a couple hours in 3 days to try and break them in a little bit more. And I talked about how I put in the neoprene inserts under the insoles. Was the big significant change after I tried wearing them without extra insoles and then trying wear them with insoles. And first they were too loose, then they were too tight, and then Goldilocks put in the neoprene and they came out as close as the porridge will cook. And the bed, just sleep in and all that. Okay, metaphor done. So yeah, they really don't show any wear and tear because they've had like 1 day worth of wear total overall, maybe. And they didn't come with a box and all that, and so I couldn't do a proper unboxing of these when I first got them, but they were like $200, and I got them in what, July or whatever. Where's the playlist? And that was episode number 234, and I just see Western riding boots there. I will have to add another channel here so I can channel window, I should say, so I can more properly look up certain details maybe, but I'm not going to scroll back that far for something you can find yourself. And my boots playlist, what was I thinking? Yeah, I did a lot of videos between now and then. But I want to see if I had come up with an actual name for these. Ariat Rough Stock Performance Square Toe. That was the name of this particular boot that I did not name in the last video. So let's go ahead and add that somewhere. And the other, yet another other window. So yeah, as I was talking about, the average Joe, typically won't necessarily want to wear cowboy riding boots, but they are, fashionable again now, and while the Yellowstone effect still exists and such. And so they do have the standard taller heel. Now, the other pair that I literally wore for like an hour, so let's dispense through those real quick because they don't show any wear and tear, of course, is the Ariat Roper boots, where you can see the heel is not as tall. And these have the floppy leather, but the shaft height is also typically lower, even though these aren't very tall. They're kind of a compromise boot. But that's what you're getting more often in a Roper boot. Not necessarily this floppy leather, but shorter, 9 or 10 inches, shorter, 2 inches, something like that. And again, not a ton of new wear and tear on these. I've had them for years. They already looked like that. I wore them for an hour when I went to Boot Barn to pick up a shirt. At which time I bought those DuraShock Wolverine work boots in black, which I just did the video about that. last week, or was that this week? I don't know. December 4th, episode number 271. So if you haven't seen that, you can check that out. That will be one of my winter boots because they are waterproof and they are black. And so, like I said, not a lot of wear and tear to what, and you can see a more. I just talked about these last week, so don't. Because even though I entered both of those boots as part of the list in the challenge, I didn't really wear either of them. I wore the other boots. So the original list, or the official list on the 12 boots, I don't know if this was the original list, but I think this was either the first list or the first revision. But okay, so number 1 was the LL Bean Ranger mock, which is in the box here. And I didn't end up wearing these hardly at all. And I just did a comparison of these with some other boots. But Iron Snail had recommended these, and I thought they looked pretty good, and they were on sale for like $80. What's wrong, boot? $80. I was going to put them in the yard sale with the tag on them and see if I could get $80 for them. Probably not. They'd probably offer me like $20, and I would laugh at them. But keep these in mind because we'll be talking about these again later. Because, again, of course, I just got these that I just did the unboxing. Episode December 9th, 2 days ago, 275. But these were not part of the official challenge, but I did wear them around for the afternoon that day, and they were pretty comfortable. And these may or may not be part of the winter selections. We'll see how that goes. I've mostly finalized a list, but the list is subject to change with whims and such things. So anyway, so the Ranger mock, yes, that was this, which again is more of a summery camp style shoe. So when the weather was really warm, it made a little bit sense to have the lower, more Chukka style, but I never liked the closure very much because I can't pull it very tight as much as I need, and I was too lazy to put an insert in this one like I did with the Ariat Western Riding boot to cinch that up. So next year I'll likely wear them more and do something like that. And for now, I just couldn't be bothered. I have plenty of other ones to wear than fuss about with these ones. Next on the list was the Keene, Kansas City hiking. I call them hiking boots. Technically, these are work boots and they're waterproof, but I did not like the ones that I got that were called work boots or something, and they seemed like they would be better suited for hiking. They didn't have a very good shaft or shank rather for proper arch support. You could literally bend those ones backwards. These you can't bend them at all. The outsole is very stiff. You can bend the toe a little bit and flex it along these points, but you can't just destroy your feet with these like you could with those. So those are still in the box. Haven't worn those at all. These I did wear a little bit in the rain to test the waterproofness, and as I mentioned, with the shaft not being the taller, the rain did get into the pants, which got into the socks, which still worked its way that way, but my toes were pretty much dry, so I didn't have an issue with that. But yeah, the seepage was an issue. Something I also discussed with the which ones was it? I don't know. The DuraShocks, the new DuraShocks. They do come up, the standard 6-inch instead of this beveled or whatever you want to call this. See, to me, this is a hiking boot look, not a work boot look, but these are technically work boots. And again, I'm more likely to use these for work than the other ones that are called work boots that I would use for hiking. But I didn't wear them that much. I mean, I literally wore them for a couple days when it was a bit rainy, and I drove in them, and that was kind of hit or miss. They do kind of stick on the pedal a little bit, but not gripping it with that overhang like some of the stitch down things have that problem where this big extra, bit gets caught under the brake pedal, and then you're trying to brake and you're stuck on the gas kind of thing. A little bit more of a traction thing with these. Still kind of sticking on the gas pedal a little, but also hardly, again, barely worn at all. They don't show any real wear and tear from the asphalt, apart from some vegetation stuck in there that I didn't clean out. That's part of a Buckeye sticker ball, people. In case you're wondering what that fuzzy stuff is. One of those misplaced, Midwestern trees that get planted out here for looks. It really just make an absolute mess come autumn because we don't get ground mulch rain and that kind of thing. Anyway, so again, not a lot of wear and tear you're really going to see on these at all. But definitely a boot that will be in the winter list, whether it rains or not. So wore them, but barely wore them. Spoiler alert, the next challenge, it's going to be it might be 10 or 12 pairs, but it's only going to be 8 weeks. I'm not going to do it as long because I don't know how long winter will last. So I'm definitely going to make the challenge shorter to try and maximize the use of the pairs. Okay, so going down the list, Thursday Captain Waxed Flesh versus Thursday Hero Waxed Flesh. So yes, the Thursday Captain, the yellowish ones, I don't think I wore, or they're called tan. I don't think I wore those at all in this window of the challenge. I think they just got knotted up. But I did wear the Hero, and I did wear the other Captains, which I'll talk about toward the end, which again, I just reviewed extensively last week. They don't show hardly any more new wear and tear in the last 3 days as they did in the previous episode from 6 days ago. So again, these I wore on the same rainy couple days. In fact, I might have worn these and those on the same day. One time I think I wore these in the morning and I wore those at night or something like that. The bit of rain we had, I really wanted to test these out, but it was only misty morning kind of thing going on, so it really didn't test it very well or very much, and so I ended up boxing these right back up and not really wearing them again because I want to save these for the water repellency factor for winter. So these are in the next list already, and they should get worn more next month than they will this month. And so, yeah, again, you can see there's hardly any wear. These are the honey outsoles instead of the other outsoles. But speaking of the other ones, these repel water actually pretty well anyway. These have the other Storm King outsole, and I was only using these, as I've said 3 times or something already. I was only using these for day hikes up until this month or last month when I started throwing them in heavy rotation, just to get more wear out of them. They are a bit narrow. They do still hurt my feet a bit more than some of the other ones. My left foot really does not like this boot that much. Something going on with the way the insole rolls or something. I don't know what it is, but it kind of annoys my left foot. But they're breaking in. They're not spongy in the foam as much, so they're kind of behaving more like maybe a leather footbed would, as they don't rebound as much now and they've just kind of molded. So they fit more better than they did a week ago, I guess. You know, but like I said, apart from some scrapes and scratches and things, and these are meant to have no conditioner, but there was a place in the curb where the water wasn't draining. Somebody's sprinklers were going, and I was kicking some leaves to see if the water was going to go down. And these got water all on the tops, and it was all gone within like 4 minutes. So I don't even know if I need wax flesh rain-friendly boots when I already had these, but these don't have the cap toe. These do, and the fake cap toe is not a feature I even wanted. As I've explained, when I first bought these, it was because it was all supply chain issues, and this was the only boot I could actually get from Thursday Boots to try them on and check the sizing and all that. So I ended up with these, and then I ended up with those Diplomat ones that were way too small and still don't fit, and they're still in the garage. So yeah, Tale of Two Towns. This is not a wide version. This is where I went up half a size from this, or maybe a half a size from the other size. Yeah. So this was, I think, yeah, see, this is 6.5. This is small even for me typically. And this is a 7.5. But I had ordered this in a 7 and it was too tight, and I had sent it back and got a 7.5. This, I ordered the tan one, I think, in a 7. It might be a 7. It might be a 7.5. I don't remember. I think it's a 7 either way. Because but I bought, that was on the new last. And so I think I had bought the new last thinking it would fit similar to this last, and it didn't quite, and I don't remember. But it's not part of this challenge anyway, so it doesn't really matter. You can go back and watch that video at your leisure if you can find it. Again, in the boot playlist, somewhere in there is plenty of Thursday boots. Too many to list them all. I've got the Mavericks, I've got the wingtips, I've got the Heroes, I've got the Presidents, I've got the Black Coffee Presidents, which is the video that everybody watches. I've got the Diplomats, which is the other video everybody still watches, even though I've never like done an update on those because they still don't fit. And then of course these, the Hero, and these would have been like my first or second boot video way back when, I think. So I definitely did a video on these way back when. Which would not have been a true unboxing video, I don't think, but a bit of review. Anyway, I don't think these are the laces that came with this. I think these are the laces that came with Grant Stone boots or something. I just threw these in here to use them up and wear them out. And since these are eyelets and not very aggressive, they have the less rivety looking backings on their rivets that don't chew up everything like your tongue. But again, not showing a ton of wear and tear, a little bit of, you know, I'm not using shoe trees in these. As I said in one of the updates way back when with the President boots, I had put shoe trees in those that I think are still in those. And they really seem to have pushed down the foam, the insoles, and kind of mushed them past where they were really comfortable. And so I don't remember if I had shoe trees in these and took them out. I might have, and put them in the President boots. And I'll, like, you know, like I said, you can really see it, you know, on there, that creasing. And I'm not too worried about it. If they collapse, they collapse. They were only $200 boots, so I'm not, you know, obsessed about how they wear in. This one, the tongue, the liner leather feels like it's kind of separating from the outer leather a little bit down toward where the laces really are. Again, not something I'm too worried about. If I need the cobbler to put in a couple reinforcement stitches or something someday and kind of go against the grain crease of this indentations or whatever, you know, that can always happen. So they really are turning black in the places where they show some wear, and that's your main your main takeaway. And again, apart from a couple days on a hiking trail and a couple days, these last couple weeks. These haven't had that much wear. So they're finally showing a little bit of wear, you know, and wrinkling a bit and rumpling a bit, and the backstays, you know, maybe creasing a bit. I think you can see it more on this one. Yeah. And then the other rumples and wrinkles and whatnot. Whereas these haven't barely creased like at all. Because I've barely worn them at all. So that brings us to not quite these yet. Actually, let me dispense with these first. The Thursday Challenger made it onto the alternates list, but did not get worn at all. But they were number 10 on this original list. So these got bumped off pretty early and never got worn. So I won't discuss them here, just to show them. They're slightly different than the Captains and the Heroes in that they have the taller logger heel with the extra arch support and the the gusseted tongue, but they're the shorter height than a lot of the other ones. And they have the full tabs and the full. These are scheduled for the winter list. So again, not going to discuss them now and save us some time. And skipping ahead. Yeah, skipping. These are not on that list, but they were on some list. I might have revised. This might be the revised list that I'm looking at because I'm not seeing them. But I could have swore I had the Guide Gear Chukka boots on one of the alternate lists or original lists. Didn't wear them at all. You'd think these would have been my go-to shoes. Being the shorter height, again, being the lighter weight material, the this and the that. But I just didn't end up grabbing them. So they may or may not be in the winter list. I really don't know why that happened. It just kind of happened that they didn't end up getting worn, but they're not on this list here that I'm reading off of. So won't spend a ton of time on those. Okay, so next Thursday Captain. So next Voodoo Nylon Combat Insulated Side Zip. There was Big Five versus Similar Thing. I don't remember which is which. I have two pairs. One pair I think I wore once, and the other pair I think I wore twice. This might be the pair I wore twice, or they could be the pair I wore once. I really don't remember. They both look exactly the same, except this, no. I think this pair is the one that got worn once. I think the other pair got worn twice because the other pair was, it threw me off because I thought it was huge and somehow it fit, but turns out it was a woman's size. So like a woman's size 9 was the same as the men's size 7 or something. So this is the pair that I already had from before. So yeah, they're literally not going to show any additional wear and tear from when I was wearing them pretty often a couple years ago. Because I only wore these once. Hiking one day. Okay. so whatever dirt is on here might be recent dirt, but they're not worn out because I have other ones that are tan, more of the desert storm issue or whatever, and those are the ones that I wore more often in summer. I wore, yeah. So these are not much to report about these. The insulation does sometimes give me a heat rash in warm weather as opposed to the regular jungle boots that have the same canvas, usually without a zipper, and a slightly different tread and all that. But they don't offer the same exact ankle support. So sometimes I'll wear the jungle boots if it's really hot, but most of the time I'll still just wear these. But these zippers can fail, as I've talked about often. This particular model I haven't had that issue with, but the Voodoo tactical ones I have had where the zippers have come down while I was walking and not even noticed it until all of a sudden I'm like, why does my foot, oh, my zippers are undone. And then I keep constantly checking them every, couple hundred feet or whatever to see if the zippers are still up or not, But for a cheap, inexpensive, kind of semi-disposable, I did get a couple of the pairs resold, but I don't know if that was worth the money or not. Yeah, they're okay. They're comfortable. They do okay for the short term, but for the long haul, you know, typically if you're hiking a lot, a boot that I grind through the outsoles in a, you know, on a good year in 2 or 3 months, you know, so they don't last usually 2 or 3 years, but these I've had for a couple of years now already because I just haven't worn them that much. Like I said, I have the other color ones that get worn more. And then I might be going slightly out of order here, but let's check. Yeah, slightly. These were, in fact, these were last in that list. So I'm jumping ahead to last because, again, this was another boot that the first week or two I wore them and then decided there was no reason to ruin them just for the sake of this walking around challenge and save them for when I actually need some actual work boots. So these were the Golden Fox in the 8-inch, and they were $130, like new, somewhere in there. And I was doing a head-to-head with the Wolverine 6-inch loaders, even though I have the Wolverine 8-inch now. And so rather than, like I said, rather than destroy these, like these literally show no additional wear and tear to where they were when I did the autumn reset video or whatever it was before I started the challenge. Because, yeah, they've been sitting on the shelf the whole time, and I've been wearing these instead. And since these were second to last, we're going to save these and talk about them later. So, yes, I did wear these barely for a couple days, but basically they got eliminated out of the challenge along with the Ariat boots and the Roper boots and the other Thursday Captain boots, the tan ones. Everything got substituted after like a couple of weeks when I realized, okay, I'm not going to wear these, I'm not going to wear those, I'm not going to wear these, I'm not going to wear those. Which brings us to next on the list, which was, of course, with the JKOT boots. Same thing. I wore these for like a week or two and then realized it's way too hot. These are way too heavy. I don't need to wear these out right now. Save these for the winter list. So these are on the winter list. And I don't know how the rough out would do in the rain if we get wet weather, because I haven't tried any waterproofing spray. But since I already have, again, 3 pairs of waterproof boots, and then those other Thursday Captains are more water resistant, I probably won't wear these if I think it's going to rain. So that'll be that problem solved. But I will put these back in rotation just because I want to wear out this outsole a bit more before I try to get them rebuilt, if I want to get a little less wide width of these and a little bit more snug fit without having to put in the insoles, which the insoles came out of this to go in the Ariat boots. Didn't like them in the Ariat boots, so they're going back in here soon enough. Those grungy, ugly ones, but so they're not in here right now. So I don't like the fit of them without the extra insole. And with the neoprene, it didn't soak up enough of the extra space where I didn't feel like I was sliding around in them all the time. I absolutely cannot stand it when I'm sliding around inside my boots. So these are a little bit of a problem in that regard. And I'm cleaning out sock fuzz as we speak. Right now that the insoles are out of them, I can do a little maintenance. But yeah, they came with the rawhide laces instead. They came with the speed hook. They came with the da-da-da. I did a whole bunch of videos about these already. And they're not my ultimate boot. These were the in-stock model that I could get without having to wait for an MTO. So they were kind of another compromised boot instead of a more customized boot. So you can literally just order this off the website and try to nail down your size. That's what I was kind of using them for. And since it was more difficult to nail down the size, I ended up buying boots from Nick's instead because it was a little easier with them overall. But none of my Nick's boots made it into this challenge, although in a couple of the alternates lists, I think they were supposed to. And so, yeah, on the list I'm reading off of, they are not listed. But I did wear briefly the Nick's Packer boots, which these also were, I think these were the quick ship model or something, or maybe I waited extra. Was these the ones I waited extra for to get the other color brown, and then they're the wrong color brown or something? I don't remember, but why they still have speed hooks, I don't know, because typically I don't want that, and I really don't remember, but I know somewhere in there was compromises with these as well, but the fit overall was good, but I did go with a wide instead of a standard, and that turned out to be, I think, a good choice, because the other pair that I didn't include, I didn't wear, they are very narrow, they're very squish my feet. And of course, I'm waiting on a rebuild that's supposed to deliver today that I'm not going to do an unbox of, but I am going to try and wear them first and do a video on those next week instead of tomorrow or whatever, like I was going to do. That's why I'm doing this video today instead, because I want to get to wear those first and see how they actually fit before I make a video. And if that way, if I have any significant complaints, I can already have, talked to them and figured out where we're going, because they only allow you like one rebuild per order or something. But if they're really, 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 I think I'm going to want a refund anyway. We'll see how it goes. But I hopefully, again, based on this sizing, that won't be a problem. Hopefully they'll finally be the right fit after waiting months and months and months to get them and all that. So anyway, so this is like a cowboy boot in the sense of the heel, although I didn't get the leather here, and obviously laces, but the toe shapes were kind of a thing when I tried to go with a more traditional cowboy looking narrow toe and all that. All kinds of issues. Their last is not the same as the Thursday Maverick last, so they really squeeze the toes. So this is not very attractive cowboy boot shape, but it is a comfortable foot boot shape overall. So, that's where we're dealing, because a lot of the pull-on boots, why I kind of ended up with the Ariat boots, if they don't fit right, you're just unhappy because you can't adjust them at all. Whereas laces, I know it's not coming off. I know it's not, I know I'm sliding around. I know too tight, again, is more often the issue than too loose. Whereas if a pull-on cowboy boot is too tight, I just can't get my foot in it, so it won't matter. And in this case, I could get my foot off because they were too loose, whereas the Maverick boots, the right foot, I still can't get my foot off by myself. I need somebody to pull it off for me. So how long it takes till that wears, I don't know. But I did get the pull tabs on these. Some people think that looks kind of yuck, but these being 10-inch instead of 8-inch, I felt like it was justified. Although most people would argue that the side pull tabs on typical cowboy boots are probably more handy because you can use both hands instead of this is almost a little more like a carry-on loop than a useful tool. But also here you have the fully gusseted tongue with the kilty thing and the rawhide laces and the da-da-da. Yeah, so, but again, I wore these like barely a couple days. Meant to wear them more often and kind of didn't because I was wearing those other ones. So these also back on the winter list. Sooner than later. I want to try and wear those and break them in a bit more than I'm really worried about breaking these in. But again, I want to wear this outsole. How long these honey lug things last, I don't know. But when you're just doing light chores and day walks, sky's the limit, right? Oops. So where are we? Whites. Yes, whites. Well, okay, we're skipping one going to these. We're almost through the official list. Okay, so the next similar to those was the other PNWs. These I wore twice. Literally twice. Once was Halloween. They were part of a costume, and I wore them for hours. And they still have not broken in very much, and I'm still babying them to keep them as my nice black winter boot option. So these also on the winter alternates list, but not a boot that I'm going to wear daily, all day, every day, or anything. So this was my Han Solo costume. He wears knee-high without laces boots, but I didn't have those, and I wasn't going to go out and try and find those and see how much that would cost when I already had these $750 things or whatever that barely. They do fit me a little better than I've complained. They've stretched in a little. They're not a wide width though, and the angle of this not quite as extreme as those other Nick's Packer boots that I was just complaining about, but basically similar problem that this is not my foot shape, so my toes aren't as happy with these. I did have shoe trees in these, and I took them out to put them in something else. So to try and keep this, but Rosanville, he made it a soft toe and wanted them to collapse or something. That was part of the allure or mystique or whatever. I was trying to prevent that to, again, keep them as my nice boots. So I haven't completely given up on that, but the shoe trees that I had were the Allen Edmonds ones had a different shape to them than the J&M ones. The J&M ones fit my other boots pretty well. Yeah. As you can see, there's the J&M ones. The Allen Edmonds ones fit these really pretty good comparatively. These ones wouldn't go in them at all. The shape was all wrong, and they wouldn't collapse, or the spring wouldn't load and lock and all that. So I'm not sure where those other shoe trees are, but they're not here. They're in some happy boots right now that aren't these, but yeah, you can kind of see the leather footbed in there. Also something that takes getting used to. This is hard as a rock. So walking around in these for hours and hours and hours. And then the mini lugs, you're kind of right on the pavement with these. I guess a lot of people don't really care for the mini lugs, but everybody likes the look of the mini lugs. That's just what it came with. If I had had the choice of putting the V-bar, would I have? Maybe. But this is kind of more of a combat boot look. I might have wanted more lugs actually on this and not care if it looks as sleek in design or whatever it's supposed to accomplish with the mini lugs. Because this looks like a combat boot with a cowboy heel. That's kind of why I got it, because it looked kind of like a combat boot, I think. I don't remember. Because it certainly doesn't look that much like a Western boot. It doesn't have a toe bug. It doesn't have a this and a that. Wyatt has a big cloddy, hoppy heel on it for shits and giggles, I guess. Doesn't really need that. Not really comfortable. But also the arch support. That was another selling feature. So you need a taller heel with the arch support. So this instead of a logger heel, which I don't have any of the logger boots in here. Again, this being not a logger boot with the tall heel either. This one having the midsole all skived out, which is supposed to be a selling feature, but most of the boot makers say that's just stupid and terrible, and why would you ever do that? I haven't had a comfort issue with that. Again, I'm not using them for backpacking or anything heavy duty. When I get them rebuilt, they probably will add a midsole, and that's fine. They'll just be regular boots, and I will probably have them add arch support and a logger heel too, just so they'll be more functional in the long haul, like the Thursday Challenger boots. Again, I've mentioned this a bunch of times, but since we're doing the recap, I might as well touch all the bases. So yeah, I can't really add a shorter heel on this because you need the heel stacked for the arch support, which the arch support, you can feel it, and it's kind of in the wrong place for me because they're kind of the wrong size. This, you can't really feel the arch support at all, which I've complained about. I even said that it wasn't there, and then I realized, oh, there is some there, but not enough to pronounce and da-da-da. So again, one of these days I'll get these rebuilt and these resold. I don't know if I'll rebuild these because, again, I think they're stretching out enough where it won't matter, especially if I'm not wearing them often. If I'm wearing them occasionally, yeah, they smash my feet, but by tomorrow I'm fine, you know, that kind of thing. Where'd the other one go? Oh, here it is. So yeah, left foot, right foot. Again, not going to show any real additional wear because I only wore them for like 10 hours or less. But the one got dimpled with my thumb like almost immediately. I did that, checking out how stiff the toe actually was, and found out, oh, it's not stiff at all. And this never ever goes back into place once you do that. So that was, you know, that was not a recent thing. That was been there since almost the very beginning. And the kilties, these are the correct black ones I finally put in there only because to keep track of them. I took them out entirely for the holiday and did not wear them because I didn't think this looked very Han Solo-ish. Again, not being the correct boots, but I didn't want them to look like really the wrong boots. So I actually did not wear the kilties in them barely at all. They're just in there now where I had other ones in here for a long time that are, I don't know, somewhere. Okay, so that's those. So I basically already talked about these, like I said, even though they're not on the list. But a standard 6-inch, just a review, you know, in the rugged and resilient or rough and rugged leather or whatever. It's got that matte finish. It's oversaturated with oils, so you don't have to condition it or think about it or worry about it. I've had them for a couple of years now, and they're still, as like I said, pretty much water resilient or waterproof. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we still have a few. The official list, Wolverine and Wolverine. That's the last two on the Wolverine. Okay, so the ones that I've worn the most, I think, by now, is the 1,000 miles, which I just showed very briefly. They are starting to, you know, crease all in and whatnot. These were ones, again, I modified. I put an extra outsole on top of the leather outsole, so it does throw off the angle a little bit, but I've kind of gotten used to walking in it like that. The last couple of weeks when I've been wearing the Thursday ones instead, everything's all weird because I got used to wearing these. But of course, alternating with these. So I've shelved these for like the last 2 weeks or whatever and haven't worn them since. So whatever I showed in the update when it was, they haven't changed at all since that update because they've just been sitting on the floor while I've been wearing, again, these and those mostly, but also, again, these one day and the yellow bean ones here that I'm going to show in a minute. But so this is another basic service boot. You have the 3 speed hooks, the 3 eyelets. They're, you know, they're not exactly the same thing as the captain boots or the hero boots. They don't have a cap toe, so they're more like the President boots. They're more like the Red Wing Blacksmith than the Red Wing Iron Rangers in that sense. I had returned the Blacksmith for fit issue. They do have a semi-gusseted tongue. They do have unlined, kind of the suede interior or whatever. The speed hooks do have that jagged thing going on that shreds the tongue. So you can see where the tongue is getting abused prematurely by cheap hardware. If I can get the right side to kind of show. So yeah, that is an issue. I did put the shoe trees in these. They do have a leather kind of sock liner or whatever. I don't know if it's all leather in the underneath. There's supposed to be some paperboard or something underneath that. In some of the videos, they all talk trash about the paperboard. But I saw a cobbler tear them apart, and the paperboard in those was still perfectly fine after however many years when he was finally getting around to fixing them. And I think he put the paperboard right back in instead of replacing it with leather. So not what I would have done, but obviously he was pretty sure that that paperboard was going to hold up better than Roseanneville, you know, might lead you to believe. But still probably not what you might want as much as leather. So you might want to be there when the cobbler does the repairs to make sure that he's doing what you want, even though most of them say, come back on Thursday, and then you don't know what they've done that might be not what you asked for, apparently. Like, hey, wait, why did you put the paperboard back in my boots that should be leather or cork or something? Don't know. But so, yeah, these literally aren't going to show that much additional wear. Because, again, whenever I did that update video or whatever, if I showed these, I don't remember how much I showed of everything or what episode that even was. I did a kind of comprehensive, well, there's 263. Was that the one where I barely showed any boots? Yeah, Wolverine 1,000 Mile, but I would have showed these a lot. Wolverine 6-inch loader, wedge sole, and Keen Kansas City work boot. So yeah, update number 3 in November. I definitely talked about these, and like I said, haven't worn them that much or at all since. So your results may vary. Yeah, I didn't really care for the same as the whites. I didn't really necessarily care for the leather footbeds, and they're kind of stamped and they have kind of rumply parts and places and things, but I guess you just get used to them, because I was definitely getting very used to these boots, whether or not, you know, like it's kind of hard for me to go back and try and wear, you know, sneakers now when I've been wearing boots for weeks and weeks and weeks. It's almost like you have to do either or for a season and just suck it up, because I really feel weird trying to walk around in sneakers on like a Saturday or something now, when that's like my floater day. But why they stamp, you know, into that, I don't know. It feels like I feel that through my sock or something. Of course, I don't always wear the best socks either. I don't wear thick socks with all of these. If I don't have to, I don't, because it's already usually warm, a bit warm even for wearing boots on some of the days when I'm doing this stuff. And so I'm not in the mood for extra layers and extra heat. So then the Wolverine, again, just did the review on these again last week, 6 days ago, and I've worn them a couple times since, doing some more yard chores, and mostly because I didn't want to track too much mud in the house. And this one, I got my foot kind of locked in between a stump and a branch, so there's a little bit of a notch there that is about the only extra wear you're going to see. But they're not worn that far. It's a pretty thick wedge. I did notice that with these, the wedge is a lot more cushiony and squishy on a curb, like, or something, than I noticed with these. But I'll talk about these more in a minute when I talk about those. Again, 2 unofficial boots to compare with the official boots that didn't really get worn. So that's your bonus feature, but also I don't know if these will be in the winter list or not, but these are obviously in the winter list. Again, because these are just daily go-tos now. Just using them to use them, because again, I already have another pair in a different color with the embossed leather, and I have another pair in the taller that I want to use if I'm doing more serious work when I don't need steel toe. And then I also have the Thorogood already in a steel toe. And I think at least one pair of the Thorogoods will go into the next list, because I have not worn them like at all, and I have like 3 pairs and whatever. So anyway, so the foam, the camera does horrible things with the lighting. The foam tongue still intact, no holes. The collar still intact, no holes. You know, it's just a bit of wear. They do kind of smush more than, you know, they're not necessarily advertised as a tumbled leather, same as the Thorogoods, but once you start wearing them, they perform kind of the same way. A lot less stiff and rigid than I kind of expected in a lot of spots. You can really kind of If you can see, I mean, I can really smush this down with my hand. Whereas when I first got them, I thought this was going to be so reinforcey that it was going to be a thing. And now it's like, nah, not really. And you can see where they have flexed some. Obviously, I'm not putting shoe trees in these. Obviously, these have the wider toe box than a lot of the other moccasins, which I showed this the other day. Although this is surprisingly still big on my foot. I went up half a size, and I don't regret it that much, but I think I need to put an insole in these still to shore up a little bit of the mush, whereas these I never put an insole in, and after I wear them for a while, they more or less conform to my feet, and I'm not really sliding around in them that much. But I had thought, again, that these were going to grip my heels a little bit better than they do. I was surprised that the Golden Fox, without a real dedicated heel counter kind of shape and whatnot, that these actually kind of fit better, and maybe a little bit less squish underfoot with the less pronounced sole. But overall, I found these way more comfortable than I expected, but a little bit cheaper components. You can see still not a super stiff, but they are the taller ones. Yada, yada, yada. So again, this head-to-head, like I said, kind of ended with a stalemate because in the time given and with the type of use I was doing, you know, I never really had a chance to say, you know, if one was really that much superior to the other, with the features being, you know, pretty similar overall. The leather maybe slightly different, you know, subtle difference, a little bit different feel. This has more of a kind of a little bit rougher texture. This is more of a smooth texture, but again, just walking around and not doing a lot of industrial stuff, you know, how they're going to react to chemicals or solvents or dust abrasions and cement and things, you know, that would be a lot more granular challenge. That would be a lot more job specific. That, you know, I can't really do that right now with this kind of challenge. You know, somebody like Morawski could, you know, get guys to wear this one day and wear those the next day and on job sites and really get a better sense of that in 3 months than I can in 3 years, you know. But because again, I have other boots that I'm going to use for hiking, you know, different outsoles, different configurations and all that. And I have other boots that I can wear for, you know, more heavy duty work boots. So these are just kind of in limbo. Oh, and these, I don't remember if these ever made it onto a list, and I don't know if, I think I wore these once or twice and then decided that wearing the high heels and all that was kind of silly, but these were the whites, waist to toe ones. Again, more heavy boots. I did do at least some chore in this, but not enough to, all of this wear and tear was before I got them. So like, there's really no way to show an update of these unless the heel falls off or something. But these will definitely also be in the alternates winter list. If I need a pair of black heavy duty boots, again, I can't really talk about these all day again because even though I've been wearing them the last 2 weeks, every other day or whatever, they don't show a lot of additional wear since the last video. So this was the LL Bean. Again, this was my compromise boot because I couldn't afford Gokis or Easy Mocs or Russells or whatever, but none of those brands hardly come in my size anyway. So long story short, these got worn for a couple days. I had to go with the wide because the regular was sold out, and same as this. Blessing and curse, you know, I'd be complaining about some other aspects if I had gotten the regular size, I'm sure. So both of these being a little too big is probably not the end of the world. But as you can see, they're not the exact same style of boot. So this was not a stylistic choice as much as just an affordable one because it went on sale, and I was like, okay, that's a reasonable price, because again, I wanted something that was more like this originally for that heritage look, which is how I end up with these, which again, I just did the video of these the other day, and I've only worn them like once. And so, but you can see these two are very similar concept. This one a little bit taller, the lacing system a little more user-friendly. The width still a little bit sloppy, but better for me than this being really sloppy again. But so when I was comparing this to this, as you can see, they're not the same thing at all. But for the price. And so this was what I guess should have waited for instead of buying these. Those I had already bought a while ago, because I only just bought these recently when I was kind of like feeling all butthurt about Mocktober being over and whatnot. But clearly they're not the same boot. And this is, the outsole is not a really good hiking outsole for my mountain usage or whatever. So again, this good casual asphalt, whereas use case scenario, I can take these hiking instead of, you know, some of those other ones. How they will perform and I don't know. I haven't decided if I'm going to take these if I go Monday, or not the zipper ones, but maybe those Nix ones that are supposed to come, or maybe, I don't know. I don't think I've ever hiked in these, but I don't know if I want to. I mean, they are heavier duty. They, you know, more snake proof if that's a consideration. These being the thinner leather, I'm not sure how they would pass the puncture test. But even though it's still warm, snake season should be pretty much over. So I don't know if I need a taller boot and paranoia and all that. But this definitely much thicker leather than the kangaroo. But the kangaroo is supposed to be durable, even though it's thinner. But again, a rattlesnake puncture, I think you want as much thick as you can get, no matter how strong this is supposed to be. Not sure. But yeah, they've bunched up and done stuff already, just walking around a couple of times. You know, they'll have character, but not necessarily the rigidity and support that I'd really like. I mean, they do have this padded collar, which is kind of nice and all that. But again, these were not part of the challenge. They just got slotted in for a couple of days when I should have been wearing one of these other pair of boots, but that would have just meant I was wearing these again anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered that much. Because I was literally just wearing those almost every day at that point, because they were what my feet were kind of growing used to. And the challenge had already kind of taken a back seat to just, I'm going for a walk. I'll grab the boots that I always grab. So these in the winter challenge almost certainly as an alternate or something. These almost certainly as a daily wear. So that's about it. So that's a long hour. I don't know who will watch the whole thing. I don't know what I'm forgetting to mention. But of course, if you have any questions, you can put them in the comments. And look forward to the next one. And the winter reset technically isn't for 10 more days. When I'll do that video, I don't know if I'll bother. The big changes will be less nautical stuff or no nautical stuff and no pilot stuff, and more mountain man farmery kind of stuff, and more holiday shmaliday festive looks and all that. And like I said, taking a break from pretty much all of these boots, or intentionally wearing them instead of just wearing them if I feel like it, for a couple weeks until I, start the next challenge with whatever. Like I said, in this challenge, who got skipped was like, okay, that other list went away because I went to this one. There was Grant. I put it in the description, but I can't read it because I'm already in this menu. But Grant Stone, Truman. I had 3 different models of Grant Stones, or 4 maybe, because the field boots I didn't wear, which again, I have a wax flesh of that, which will be okay for checking out in the rain. But the diesel boot being the ones that I really wanted to wear, that I got those last year at Black Friday and haven't even looked at yet, or barely. In the bison, and I got the brass boot, which is kind of the Indiana Jones looking one that I wasn't going to buy, but it's in kind of a burgundy color, same as the Edward boot. So either of those could kind of, one's kudu and one's regular steer hide or whatever. Either of those can go with kind of a holiday colored outfit. The Caswell ones, I never did get the speed hook filed down. I used to have some metal files lying around, and I don't know where they went. I think I sold them at a yard sale or something. So I'll have to take those in still and get them fixed so that they're not slicing the shoelaces every time I try to tie them. Which, again, the shoelaces were thin, flimsy junk worse than this. Where'd those other boots go? I don't know. Oh, way over there. These aren't even as thin and flimsy as the one Caswell sent that I already destroyed 2 pairs or something. Just trying to tie the thing. Yeah, so, well, I feel, what did I learn from all this? Just that I have too many pairs of boots, but I already knew that. But that obviously if I'm going to try and wear boring work boots, I'm never going to get to wear my nice boots. So again, a reason to suspend the challenge technically 2 weeks early, because I skipped 2 weeks in the summer that I could have added on to the end of this, that I'm totally not doing that. So that's that.